Now we've got political analyst Rebone Tau, who joins us in studio. Thank you very much for joining us. And I wanted to start with an overall thought that you had of the conference this weekend. But let's start with Hassan's thoughts on the Youth League asserting its autonomy as the ANC Youth League. How possible is that, given that they've had over a decade of being disbanded and 8 years or thereabouts of not having actual leadership or a youth league in general?
You know, the thing about the Youth League is that most young people who are in the ANC are depending on the ANC for deployment or for business. So you can't be independent, you know, in terms of your thinking. If for your livelihood, you would want to benefit from the ANC. And I mean, she spoke about the youth unemployment, you know, and some young people join actually politics because of they see how some have actually have benefited over the years through being members of the ruling party, you know, with the head of allegations of corruption and so forth. And this is because of people have seen the lifestyle, the opulence, you know, by some of the leaders, you know. I mean, Julius Malema, if you spoke to him in the past, you know, he would even speak about things that he didn't learn from the ANC when he was in the Youth League, you know, that they were taught to drink and all that, you know, that he started to go to school only when he is now a leader of the EFF. So it will be very difficult for the Youth League to have its own autonomy as long as you have young people who want to live an opulent lifestyle and not look at the revolution and not play its role in terms of the twin towers.
Yeah, and based on that foundation that you've just described, one of opulence and one of just getting things handed to you, if you will, on the at the expense of the people that you're supposed to be giving services to, is there a real future for the ANC Youth League after this particular conference, especially because we are entering into the ever so crucial 2024 elections next year?
I think the leadership that will be elected, it's up to them what legacy they want to leave. You know, if they want to bring back the Youth League to its greater heights, or they just want to be beneficiaries of a system which is an ANC elite system, you know. So it will be up to them if they want to play that role where they champion interests of young people in society and rally those young people behind the banner of the ANC. But if they would not want to focus on their own constituency, because the reality of the matter is that these are going to be very difficult elections for the ANC. You know, the Youth League has to play a very big role in making sure that they get the ANC those numbers in terms of the youth vote. Because if you look at 2021, 2019, you know, it's a low turnout when it comes to youth participating, you know, in the election process.
Yeah. Speaking of saying that it's up to them to decide what happens from the day of the conference and after the elections that happen next year, what would you say they should be prioritizing as the ANC Youth League after this conference when it comes to the upliftment of the youth in various communities across the country?
They need to revive the activism, because without activism within Youth League structures, you can't, you know, advance anything. So you need a youth league that has got activists on the ground, you know, a youth league that can hold an ANC councillor, because there's a lot of wrongdoings at local government. We have seen the Auditor General's report in terms of how money is misused at the local government. So you need a youth league that is proactive. And I used to listen to Zugo Godlimb, you know, at some point he made a statement that you can't have a youth league that is okay with a clinic that is dysfunctional in its ward, you know, a school that is dysfunctional in its ward, you know, a police station that is dysfunctional, because it's not only about issues of youth, but also the challenges that face the community, because the Youth League at a branch level does have a seat in meetings of the ANC at a branch level, where councillors in the main, if you look at the township or the rural areas, are ANC councillors.
Yeah. What would you say there? I mean, I asked this to the former president, Lulu Johnson, when we spoke earlier on, in that there has been this issue of the ANC not getting ultimate power after the elections next year, and because there will be a formal youth league structure, the role that they might play in the coalition, national coalition politics that will be be established to run the country post the elections, the role you think that they will have to play in this regard?
I don't know if the ANC will go into a coalition. Yes, there is a decline that we must all look at. I'll give an example. I mean, Gauteng, although Panyaza, he's trying by creating all these posts, that vacancies, jobs. But I don't know if the Gauteng people will really vote for the ANC, because this is a different constituency, from maybe Mpumalanga or Northwest. And then KwaZulu-Natal, we know that there's a decline. We've seen with the by-elections, how the IFP is making serious inroads in that province. And I think before that, I was like, okay, I think the ANC might just get, above 50%. But with the expulsion of Isma Khashule, it might hurt the ANC in the Free State, but they might get over 50%. I don't think that that they will lose those elections, but there will be definitely a decline. But I don't see the ANC losing those elections, going to a national coalition.
Yeah, and then, I mean, it's a very optimistic view that you have, contrary to what many would have said. But if they do, the role that the Youth League will have to play here, should they win, how do they retain that majority, as little as it will be at the time, going forward?
I think for me, it would be, firstly, if we ask a role, it's not the ANC Youth League that is in government.
Yeah.
It's the ANC that is in government.
But they have a role.
Behind the scenes,
yes.
If the ANC gives them a table on this coalition talks, because if they are not involved in the coalition talks, then they don't have a role. The ANC will decide in terms of coalitions, which partners they're going to. And for an example, maybe let's say ministerial, the Youth League might not be consulted, because normally it's the SU of the ANC and the alliance that even speak on even ministerial posts. The Youth League is not really involved in some of these things.
So just based on the proceedings that we've seen happen this weekend, we've seen how the mother body handles things. They had to finish their conference via hybrid model in January after the December elective conference that they had. Are you confident that they will be a little bit more organized in terms of finalizing all of the sessions that they're going to be having, the nominating and voting sessions, as well as the announcement of the leadership in the time that they are supposed to? I mean, I heard various speakers from the conference saying that they have learned what not to do from the mother body.
There's two things I think that I want to raise, as I respond to this question. But firstly, start by saying, what is interesting about this conference? Discussion documents were released after BGMs had concluded. So the question is, what are delegates going to discuss? What mandate do they have? So in terms of policy issues, because they were not discussed, this discussion document at branch level. Yeah. Secondly, when they went for a closed session, as I spoke to some of the delegates, was that there was an issue where Ngudla presented the rules of conference. And delegates in plenary raised, where is the program? Because the program of the conference must go with the rules of conference. And there was no answer from the task team, So then they asked them to break for lunch. So they went to go and break for lunch. But that shows you the challenge that even now, the program of conference has not been finalized, that they just wanted to adopt the rules without the program itself of conference. And we know that there's the issue of credentials that's coming up that is going to be highly contested. Some have raised the issue that this conference has not reached threshold. And by the way, if you really indeed look at the ANC at its conference in December, they had around 30,900 branches. And yesterday, if you listen to Masina, he was saying that they've got 2,200 and something branches. So that means technically that 70% they have not reached threshold. So there's also going to be contestation by those who feel that this conference has been flawed. So it's going to be a very, I think, interesting, robust debates. And it will depend how the ANC handles this. Are they going to become dismissive? Because this is not only a conference of the entity, but the ANC has brought a delegation to help these young people.
Yeah, I mean, with all of the things that you have and discussed, the fact that there might be a lack of autonomy within the Youth League, their involvement in a national coalition, if any, if they're allowed a seat at the table, and of course the disorganization that you've just described to us, one wonders overall, is there a relevance of an ANC Youth League in 2023 going into the immediate future?
The Youth League, you know, what people need to understand is the reason why it was formed.
Yeah.
The Youth League was formed to actually bring new ideas to the ANC. You know, the Youth League being a body of opinion in the ANC. But over the years, the Youth League has lost that and has just been used as a pawn within ANC factional battles. They see themselves as some lobby group within ANC factional battles. So the reality of the matter is that once they start to understand why the Youth League was formed, it will still remain relevant, because you look at even our population.
Do you think they can, though? I mean, you've seen the cohort, you've seen the nominations and the people that have raised their hands to take up different positions of leadership. Do you think that there will be that recognition and the appreciation of the original ideals under which the Youth League was formed, and that be carried into the future?
There are young people in the Youth League who still believe in that, yes, and then there are those who don't actually subscribe to that, but who see themselves as a lobby group, you know, within ANC factional battles, so that they benefit financially or through jobs, you know. So as things stand, I think that young people really need to reflect, you know, at this conference, you know, to say, as we live here, are we taking back the Youth League and owning this organization? But I mean, if you look at those nominations, you can see that there's a serious challenge. The ANC will want a weak Youth League, because there was a deliberate effort by the ANC in 2013 to weaken the Youth League so that the Youth League does not have a voice. But I don't think that many of the young people that are in Nazareth actually appreciate. And by the way, you know, I was talking to one of the former leaders of the Youth League, that if you have a young person who joined the Youth League in 2013, does not really know or has never had an experience of what the real Youth League needs to look like.
And that's quite the scary thought, and one wonders, as you've just reflected on there, if the few that are still there that have the vision will be able to carry it through to the masses. Thank you very much for your time and for joining us in studio this afternoon. That is political analyst Rebone Tau, just unpacking the different components and the complexities of the ANC Youth League conference, their relevance, and of course what they are able to contribute to the country as the Youth League of the governing party.